And today I have a very special guest, Mr. Owen Dashner. If there's any investor in Omaha that I wish would just disappear, it is actually Owen Dashner. And I mean that. I really mean that. But in a heartfelt way, Owen is probably my top, what I consider my top competitor in the Omaha market, because he markets to a lot of the same data that I do, and we end up at a lot of the same houses competing one-on-one against each other. So for that reason, I do want him to disappear. But I will say this as well, just in the last year, I think I've bought 3 houses from you guys, and we've been allies, and I think there's something that's kind of neat about being a competitor and an ally at the same time. So there'll probably be a little bit more of that today. So what to expect for today's podcast. This is a double-blind study we ran. Owen and I are both going to do a little introduction, so we're going to give Owen a second to introduce himself so we can learn a little bit about who he is and what he's done and where he's been. And I'll do the same, and then each one of us came up with our own top 10 habits, mindsets, skill sets, characteristics of an effective real estate investor. And we're going to start at number 10 and work our way down. We each did this individually, so there could be some overlap. But we started at 10, work all the way down to 1. That's what we're going to do today, if you're good with that. So without further ado, I'm going to let our VIP guest, Owen Dashner, introduce himself.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for finally accepting my begging to get on this with you.
I know.
I was standing outside his house with like a Say Anything boombox.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Owen, I know you're super nervous.
Yeah.
Just pretend like it's me and you in a room with about 100 people listening in on a very private conversation. That's the scenario we're in.
Love it.
Okay.
All right.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So I spent about 20 years in corporate America. I started out in recruiting. I was an IT headhunter. I eventually got into corporate HR and recruiting, and then started running like team lead projects for implementing applicant tracking systems and that kind of thing. I worked at ConAgra, which I know you worked at ConAgra. Yeah. Thank you, I think. After ConAgra, I went to IBM, did kind of more of the same there, recruited technology and functional business consultants for their global consulting arm. And then after that, one of the divisions of IBM got bought by Ricoh, a Japanese printing, scanning, copying consulting firm. I worked for them for about 10 years. And eventually, and I was working from home since about 2005, which also was the year I bought my first investment property. So I bought a flip in Council Bluffs, and it was 9 months of my life that I made about $2 an hour. Doing that, I would work about 60 hours a week at ConAgra, no joke. That was kind of a meat grinder there. So I'd take off the suit, go over to Council Bluffs, get my gym bag out, throw on my clothes, and pretend I knew what I was doing, and I didn't at all. So I painted, I tore stuff up, and then I kind of hired a couple of friends to come and bail me out on my horrible remodeling skills. So that took about 9 months, and like I said, I didn't make much money, and this is in 2005, so pretty good time, similar to now. Still didn't make much money, but I did get turned on to another house that I ended up buying, and I made about $40,000, and I didn't do anything to it. This was on Lake Manawa. I didn't know what I had. I was panicking. I told the seller, I'm like, I can't really afford to buy this right now, and this guy's like 90, I think he was 96 years old. And he had, Council Tucky jokes aside, he literally did have 3 teeth in his head. And one of them wiggled when he talked, so he was telling me a story. Anyway, so I go through the house, and I'm like, I really want to buy this, I know it's a smoking deal. If I give you your asking price of $95,000 for a lakefront, Lake Manawa house, will you wait 6 months for me to close it? This is what I asked. This legit happened. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So I met him at the title company. I have no idea what to do. I'm Googling, if Google was even around then. I was trying to find a for sale by owner purchase agreement. Eventually got one, met him there, signed it. 6 months go by, and he thankfully is still alive by the time I close on the property and end up selling. So I close on it, and I get a loan, and they appraise it, and it appraised for $169,000 as is. So the bank actually gave me all the money to buy it, and I bought it for $95,000. I literally sold it 1 month on the day that my first mortgage payment was due for $135,000. So I made $40,000, and then I was hooked. So over time, I kept working my day job, and I would buy a rental or two. I'd flip a house so I could afford my rental habit. And then kind of fast forward to kind of the mid-teens, I started buying smaller multifamily properties. And then I was like, okay, I looked up and all of a sudden I'm 40 and I like my job, and I felt bad about even complaining about it because I was making really good money, working from home, not fulfilled at all. And I just decided, you know what, screw this. I want to get serious about this and really see if I can make it go. And that's when I started doing more like marketing. Put up a website, started doing pay-per-click, and got serious about it. And I did, I think, 20 deals while working a full-time job in 2017, and I made about $240,000, and which pretty much doubled my salary working at Rico. And at that time, that's when I kind of got the cojones to say, see you later. So, as I tend to do, I'm rambling a little bit, but I met my now business partner with Red Ladder Property Solutions, Brandon Tauber, and who's watching from home. He and I just really lined up and clicked on a lot of just our outlook, our place in life, kind of our goals, our morals, and all that. We started talking more and more about it, and he was a little dissatisfied with his career too. So, long story longer, we ended up quitting our jobs and forming Red Ladder, and then we've been doing that ever since. Full time, got an office, all that good stuff. So
Awesome. Owen, tell us a little bit more. Family life, what do you like to do? I know we heard a little bit a second ago, but for the sake of the podcast.
So I've been married since 2005. Actually, we just had an anniversary, so our 16-year.
Congratulations.
My wife, Jen, she's great. She is running the kids around tonight to volleyball, I think is the latest tonight. So I've got two girls, 9 and 12, Avery and Olivia, and they're awesome. So we try and spend as much time as we can together. We live in Carter Lake. We love to go boating. We've got some really cool neighbors that we like hanging out with, so I just like hanging out with them. You know, during the summertime, it's a lot of fun. I play a lot of golf, not well, but get out as much as I can. I've been kind of like golf-a-palooza the last month and a half here. I've been on like 3 trips, so I'm making hay while the sun shines.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Owen, thank you for sharing. I thought I'd heard you'd worked at ConAgra at some point, and I didn't realize that our paths crossed that way as well. So I'll go real quick. Comment?
No, I was just going to say I saw your file.
Oh, wow, that's scary. So I actually started my work career in California, in Southern California, working at a Frito-Lay factory after I graduated from school, and I was a night shift manager of the Funyuns department. So I was watching over the employees making Funyuns, and it's a really surly group of people. Factory people are just mean. So it was a really good opportunity to learn about like just kind of dealing with hard people and hard situations. I spent 5 years with Frito-Lay and wanted to make a move back to Omaha. It felt like it'd be better to raise a family here, and took a job with ConAgra, actually working in Lincoln in a factory there making, and I'm not kidding with these words, poppycock, fiddle faddle, and crunch and munch. Were the 3 flavors of candied popcorn that we made at that plant. And I was a production manager there, spent a couple years commuting back and forth to Lincoln, and then took a job at corporate here in downtown Omaha with ConAgra in co-manufacturing, managing just a bunch of different third-party plants that made our product. So one of my favorite accounts was, I had a bunch of pie accounts like apple pie and like the Marie Callender's pie accounts. So I'd go visit those plants and eat like a ton of like chocolate cake and apple pie. So that was my favorite thing. But like you, I started this very part-time, the real estate investing thing. My very first house that I flipped was on the MLS, and it was right before Christmas, and it was an estate sale, a property in Westgate, which is kind of a good middle type neighborhood here in Omaha. And I partnered up with still my business partner now, Jeff Cohn, who was a real estate agent. We had been talking and kind of ideating about buying a house and flipping a house or buying a rental. So we found this little $70,000 house and turned it. And like you, I would leave and take very long lunch breaks and go try to manage a rehab. And you know, we were just doing simple paint, carpet, moved a wall, finished out a kitchen, and I am not handy at all. I did some demo, because that's pretty easy to swing a hammer or a sledgehammer and mess some stuff up, but as far as putting it back together, I did none of that. It was just kind of working with contractors. But our very first flip, I think we made $11,000, and we immediately took that money and went on family vacations and spent it all. So it was kind of a neat way to like consider it side money. But did that from 2014 to 2016, did a total of 8 deals, and I cannot believe that you did 20 deals while working a full-time job. So for those of you that think that like the transition is easy, that's a lot of work hours. Just trying to picture a full-time job, managing that, family, and then 20 houses. I mean, that's a couple houses a month. So were you wholesaling those houses, or fixing them all up, or just buying and reselling real quick, or wholesaling?
It wasn't the first wholesale that I'd ever done, but I didn't know what it was when I did it. And yeah, so most of those were wholesale. So okay. I would just buy them, clean them out, clean them up, put it on the market. I mean, because we've been in a 10-year bull market here for real estate. So that was a huge eye-opener for me, because I used to be like, when you're a hammer, everything was like a nail, and this was a game changer. So I realized that the velocity of money is more important than what you do with the product.
Did somebody write that down? I hope so. Because the time velocity of money can sometimes be exponentially more important than your return on investment, especially if you have limited resources. So that's why wholesaling is a beautiful thing, because you can put it out to the market and let people pay what they're going to pay, which is, again, why we're competitors and why I want you to disappear, because we're both taking houses and doing a lot of wholesaling and doing a lot of holding as well. And I don't know where I got sidetracked, but we did about 8 deals in that 2-year period. And I did, and just to note, like when I quit my job at Conagra in 2016, didn't have any savings and wasn't making necessarily, I don't think I was making anywhere near the money you were, but we had 5 deals in the pipeline, and it was enough runway for me to justify quitting my job and running our flipping company. So that was kind of it. Looking back, it didn't feel that risky, but I'm realizing it was kind of risky because there wasn't a lot of savings. I had credit card debt, and it was like, well, these 5 deals should make us some money, and it ended up that we could string together enough deals to make the transition. But I will say it was life-changing to be able to go full-time, exiting the day job and making that transition and kind of cutting the, what do they say, cutting the parachute, or well, you wouldn't want to cut a parachute. I don't know.
Cutting the cord?
Cutting the cord? Yeah. I don't know. Burn the bridge?
Yeah.
Okay. Burn the ships.
Got your parables mixed up.
Okay. All right. But it really forces you into a situation where you have to survive. And it completely changed my mentality. So one thing that I always recommend to people, that you find a way to force yourself to commit to something and go all in, because it is life-changing once you put yourself in that situation. It takes a little bit of courage, it takes a lot of research, but do it. It can change everything. So today, what Owen and I are going to do is each share our top 10 skills, habits, mindsets of an effective real estate investor. I have no idea what he's going to share with you. We're going to just go back and forth and start with our number 10s and work all the way up to number 1, and then we'll jump into some Q&A about what we share today or anything else in the real estate investing world. Owen, I don't know if our businesses are very similar. Last year my company bought 60 houses. The previous couple of years we were hovering around 70, 75 houses. And last year we held 22 of those 60 for a rental portfolio. So we were way into buying and holding single family residence, and we do a lot of wholetailing as well. So that's a little bit about me, Owen. I think your business model is pretty much the same.
Yeah, very similar. A lot of my holdings were just ones that I had accumulated over the years, and then got into smaller multis and just kind of I've traded up a couple of times. But Brandon and I, since we formed Red Ladder, we've also started picking up rentals. So we're kind of cherry picking the ones that we want to keep in parts of town that we think are going to be good long-term plays, and that are just solid assets. So yep. I think we have like 9 rentals.
Okay.
But, I've got about 130-ish.
Whoa.
It's kind of moving.
Small
targets. Yeah.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive in. Top 10. What is your number 10? So we're working descending order.
Okay. Well, full disclosure, I didn't know these were in order. So these are top 10 cumulatively.
Well, you need to act on.
Okay. All right.
Kind of act on the fly here. Start with your number 10.
So my number 10 is balancing ambition with family, health, mental and physical, and relationships. So it's a tough it's tough when you're ambitious and driven to really kind of achieve that, I don't know, harmony, for lack of a better word, with your family and your personal life and just your own mental health. But I think it's really important and not talked about enough. And I'm not perfect by any means in any stretch of the imagination, but I try, and that's something that I kind of keep on my my list. So I try and shut it down when I can, spend time with the family, and then after the kids go to bed, maybe I'll get up and do some emails or whatever. But that's number 10 on my list.
I like that. I think when you're passionate about something, it is a double-edged sword, and it can relationships can be destroyed as you seek your passion. And my wife and I, Marie, who's in the room today, I think we found ourselves in that trap at times because she's also a passionate real estate agent and investor, and sometimes we just dive into our work, and it can be very easy to be so focused on something great, something important, but lose out on the very thing that you started the whole thing for. So,
well, I think it's tough too when you get to a certain experience level. I was going to say age, but you're a little younger than I am. When you get to a certain experience level, things become a little easier in your professional life, and it gets to be fun, especially when you're working on stuff that you want to work on. It's your business now. You own it. You're not just working some crappy job. And when you own it and you really are passionate about it and you want to dive into it, it's tough to kind of put the governor on with those things. So I think having just kind of guardrails on your life with those things and checkpoints and people to kind of check you on that, like, hey, how's it going? How's your personal life type thing?
Intentional. I like that. My number 10 is curiosity. And I put curiosity because I was kind of thinking of my beginning stages of exiting my day job, and it really started with listening to podcasts. I would commute to Lincoln and listen to a podcast on the way to work, and then listen to a podcast on the way home. And through that process, I gained enough confidence to realize that I could do this, because as you listen to enough people talk about real estate investing, you realize they're pretty simple people. No offense to either one of us, but it's a pretty straightforward process. And listening to all the different stories and backgrounds and what everybody had accomplished, it was like, this is all very doable. So I think curiosity is a really important characteristic for a real estate investor to have, because it's what leads you into that learning process for really growing in the space.
Well, it also helps a lot with being a podcast host. You're curious about people, you ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Meeting with motivated sellers, that's a really good skill to have too, and a really important one, because you want to ask and listen to what they're saying, and it may not always be really clear on what their motivations are, so you have to ask questions and kind of dig down into that. So that's, I think, me being in recruiting for so many years, I've interviewed thousands and thousands of people. It's just normal for me. Like, I meet somebody and I just ask questions until I find something that we have in common, and then you can just kind of drill in on that. And I don't do it intentionally, but that's just kind of how it goes.
And how does somebody feel who comes up to them, is super interested, asks them 100 questions? I mean, that person's your new best friend.
Yeah, I mean, most people like talking about themselves, and when you can make it easy for them, they tend to laugh. Wow, that person was really interesting, and then they're like, I know nothing about them.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Well, it's especially useful when you really are interested, and it's there's a real interest there when you're curious about people. You ask them questions. I think people can kind of see through it if it's a sales tactic. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
All right, let's move on. Number 9. What do you got?
Number 9. Focus on processes, not just results. So this one may not apply to everyone, but this is something I've really tried to do a lot more of recently, instead of just throwing out a big goal without a clear path to get there. Focusing on the inputs, so like not just how many deals are you going to do this year, how many doors are you going to buy, but more how many offers is it going to take for you to get a deal, and focus on the offers. And then even beyond that, how many potential leads are you going to have to get to even make those offers? So you have to look at what's going in the funnel, not just what's coming out the bottom, because there could be all kinds of things broken in there that aren't leading to a good output.
That is, can I just have you read my number 9 as well?
Process and system oriented.
And what was yours?
Mine was focus on processes, not just results.
So we lined up perfectly on that one. That was awesome. So if I could just emphasize what you just said, I heard it once explained as leading and lagging indicators. So a leading indicator is an action. It's a measurable action. A lagging indicator is a result. And in any business function, a lot of times we like to measure a lagging indicator, like, oh, how many flips did I do? But that, how many flips you did is only a result of an action that you took. Like you said, making an offer is a leading indicator because you can control that. You could go knock on 10 doors every day and make sure you make 10 offers every day. So focusing on the leading indicators that drive the result is really more important than anything else.
Yeah, and it really magnifies the things that you're doing on the front end. So if you focus on lead indicators and you amp up, say, even by one offer a week, right? And over time, that could lead to just a multiplier of the amount of deals that you're doing. When you look at over a 5-year, 10-year period, I mean, you're talking gigantic swings of wealth and income and all that. So I think those are just huge things.
Did you recently, you decided one of your goals this year was to make more offers. You started making offers in MLS. How's that been for you, controlling that leading indicator? Have you guys measured the change?
So I have a spreadsheet that I track every week, and it's got columns of just business things and then also personal, like keeping track of how many days I'm journaling and meditating and all that stuff, but also how many offers I made. Our goal this year was to make an offer a day. And so if you cut out the weekends, that's roughly about 260 days or 260 offers a year. So if you focus on that input, I think you'll be happy with the outcome of it, because especially when you're dealing with motivated sellers, a lot of times you can get bunches of them that come in and they're good leads, right? So you can kind of hammer away at them. And then when you're in a down period, like let's say we were kind of December, January, like we got nothing that came in for leads. We started really just hammering the MLS and then really trying to develop, keep on top of wholesalers that we like working with. So we look at different channels, but the emphasis was always on offers, not on how many houses are we getting. So control that part, and then the rest of it will take care of itself.
Love it. All right, where are we at? Number 8?
Number 8.
What do you got?
So seek out and spend time with high-level, goal-oriented people, either in one-on-one or small group sessions. I love this one. Like it's one of my favorites.
I'm with you on it. Mine actually, mine says avid networker. That's my number 5. So we lined up on that one. Do you want to expound anything on that?
No, I just think I kind of did this exercise where I tried to reverse engineer the deals and relationships that I've had and where they originated. And that's an interesting exercise to go through. So it could be that you bought 3 deals from us over the last year, and it's like, okay, how did that happen exactly? And then you think back and it's like, well, we spent time together, we got to know each other, we mutual trust and respect and all that, right? And but outside of that, you have this network of people that it's your job to develop that network. And I'm not just talking like you're in it only for getting something out of it. That's not what I mean. I mean, you seek out people that are high level, goal oriented people that just get after it, and they're accountable. And that's the kind of people I want to surround myself with. So if you do that, you're going to have opportunities that come up that you had no idea were even possible. And you couldn't even predict. So you can't say, I'm going to go out and do this because it'll lead to that. It's just you don't know. So just put yourself out there as much as you can and spend time with people that are like that, and just good things are going to happen.
So true. My number 8 is KPI tracking, and for those of you who don't know, KPI is Key Performance Indicator. So again, this kind of couples up with my processes and leading indicators, but you have to track everything that you do, especially if you are going to start marketing and doing some paid marketing. Track and measure everything, whether it's how many offers you're making, how many postcards you're sending, what your response rate is. The more you track and the more you measure, the more you're going to be able to make adjustments in your business and really start to understand where your deals are coming from and where your money and your time is best spent. And I think it can be very easy, especially at our level, Owen. Sometimes successful people don't track what they're doing, and it puts them in a situation where they have to keep doing all of the things. And even if it is, if there's a big cash-eating monster piece of their business where they're losing money, they don't know it, so they keep doing that thing. Whether it's an expensive piece of marketing that's not getting the return, if you're not tracking, then you have to keep doing everything to get the same result that you're getting. So it can be easy to stop tracking and measuring if you have some level of success, but if you stop doing it, you're throwing money away.
100% agree, and I think marketing is probably your glaringly obvious, way that you can kind of tell those things. If you don't track that, you're just throwing stuff against the wall and you don't know what's effective and what's not. And then also employees, That's even more important too, right? So you hire somebody as a staff member, you have to measure their performance or let them know kind of where they're not performing or where they are.
Yep.
Right. So.
And I'm guilty of not tracking all the time, and I feel his pain.
Yeah.
All right, number 7.
Okay, so time block your calendar to work on your fitness, reflection, and learning. And I have this on here because I think a lot of people, myself included, you get into times where you're busy, and you forget. You're like, oh, I haven't listened to a podcast lately, or I haven't spent any time reading, or just kind of researching and just keeping your brain sharp, or just journaling and trying to spend time like thinking about what's important in your life and are you on the right track, right? So I think time blocking has helped me a lot. I know like every morning, like fitness is important to me, so I need to. I got to work at it to stay healthy, and I have to time block my calendar. Otherwise, it can just go by the wayside. So I think that's key. I don't know if everybody does that, but I know it's a recurring theme among a lot of people that I respect that have good habits.
Have you read The One Thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Love that book.
That's a Gary Keller. I don't know if he coined it, but time blocking.
Oh.
Is that a thing that you?
No, I think I did.
You coined it? Okay. Well done. So agree. If it's not on your calendar and if it's not time blocked, usually in the morning, it's probably not going to get done. It's probably going to just be a kind of a passing fancy. I completely agree. My number 7 is more of a characteristic. I put cautious risk taker. And I've always considered myself pretty conservative in my business, especially when you think about buying a house. You're talking about throwing out $50 or $100 or $200 or $300,000 at something and hoping that it gets some sort of a return. But what I've learned is that over time, do it through the repetition, that I can cautiously take a risk, if that's not an oxy. Again, because of repetition, the decision is that quick. So I think that, like you said, knowing your numbers, very important. Where are we at, number 6?
Number 6. Spend time on high-value activities. Don't do a $10 task just because you can.
Okay. Any examples of what a high-value activity is for you?
Well, I think for me, and I get made fun of about this, but for me, honestly, the best use of my time is spending time networking with other people that are potential, customers, clients, other investors that we could do potential deals with. I think that's probably the highest and best use of my time. And then also spending time in the living room with motivated sellers. Those 2 things. That's it. If I could do only those 2 things, I'd be perfectly happy.
Man?
Yeah.
Agree. I consider my highest value time spent, like you said, meeting with sellers. I love going on appointments. I don't like any of the stuff that happens before going on the appointment, which is why I have an acquisition manager in my business, because they nurture the leads. They help do all the follow-up, setting up the appointment, doing the pre-screen on the phone. So I just want to have an appointment where I show up and get to meet with somebody face-to-face. So I think that's important, to eliminate all the things that you don't want to do or that is a $10 an hour activity.
Yeah, and I think we're all guilty of that, right? We do administrative things that we probably shouldn't be doing or whatever. But sometimes you also want to feel like a man, like you gotta you fix something, or whatever. You gotta mix that in once in a while.
Yeah, right? Agreed. My number 6 is become a skilled marketer. And marketing doesn't just mean spending money. You can market in real estate investing in a ton of different ways. Driving for dollars. Putting out bandit signs. You can spend $100 on bandit signs and put them all over town. There's a ton of ways to go start marketing and get a huge return. But in the real estate investing world, I think that HGTV kind of confuses people to make them think that fixing up houses is how you generate a profit. And that is not true. You make your money when you buy the house, and you get paid when you sell. So the profit is made at the discount buy, and you buy at a discount when you understand how to market to motivated sellers. Because obviously, if you're looking on the MLS right now, it's probably hard to buy at a deep discount. So understanding marketing is like my pretty important thing if you're going to be a real estate investor, and understanding who you're marketing to and how to market to them. For example, my top 3 platform right now is direct mail, cold calling, and PPC. And I've sprinkled in a lot of things over the years. I'm doing a little bit of radio and a little bit of TV ads because they're really cheap. But you have to know what your core is, and you have to know who you're marketing to. For example, if you're a real estate investor marketing and you're not sending postcards or marketing to, for example, vacant properties and absentee owners, then you're probably leaving some money on the table. So there's a lot to be said for marketing, in my opinion.
Completely agree.
All right, are we, okay, we've already broken through 5, we're in number 4, are we, or did I skip one?
I think 5's next.
Oh, okay, 5's next, okay, go ahead.
So I have, for number 5, build a network of experts. So agents, attorneys, lenders, contractors, accountants. Those are your main core people that you're going to rely on when it comes to getting a deal, landing it, financing it, making sure you're covering your butt in the deal, and then making sure you're not paying too much in the way of taxes, and you're doing the right thing to protect you and your family.
Yeah, and I think a lot of solo investors, they go into it thinking they're alone, but you already have a team that is right there. I mean, when you look at a contractor or a closer at the title company, your person helping with your mortgage, your lender, they are on your team, and you treat them that way, and you can watch your team flourish, even though they're not an employee that you're paying for, a W-9 employee. They're still a part of your team.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you treat them right, I mean, they're essentially on your same side, right? So they want to see you succeed because they're going to get more business out of it. So if you do the right thing by them, it's going to, everybody's going to be much happier. And yeah, you may have to over time kind of cut some people and replace them with better performers or whatever the case is. But that's just part of the business. But yeah, I think that's an important one.
So my number 5 is actually kind of in the same lane, and I mentioned earlier, avid networking. And if I look at the RIA, and I have so much of my business I attribute to relationships that were generated right here at the RIA. From the banks that I use, to the contractors that I use, to the other wholesalers and investors that I bought houses from. I was here in January, or maybe it was December. You and I were talking, and I was, how's business? Like, oh, I got all these projects going on. You're kind of rolling your eyes, and I was like, oh, let me help you out with one. You were naming where they're at, and you said one of them was in Elkhorn. I was like, I live in Elkhorn. Let me take that one off your hands. And you sold me that house.
Yeah, that's true. 100% true.
You wholetailed it. We were standing just right there, and you made your quick profit, your quick buck, because you had so many projects going on. You didn't want to deal with all of them at the same time. And then I was able to turn a quick profit on the deal. Everybody won. We didn't have to be enemies.
Yeah.
And it happened right here at the RIA. Yeah, I think the more you network, the more you tell people what you're doing, the more you talk to people, it's amazing what doors open up.
Yeah, you have to make it part of it is your thing, right? So, like, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can't make it out, blah, 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 I have life going on. It's like, you have to make that. It is every bit as important to your business as marketing or any other core things that are, revenue generators, because it is for real. Like, you don't know who you're going to meet, or you don't know who you're going to talk to that may have a deal. You may have a deal that they want, vice versa. So you have to make it a thing. Like, it has to be on your calendar.
Yep. And networking, like I said, once a month on a Tuesday night, I think we can all afford to carve it out on our schedule and come here. And I'd also say joining masterminds. I mean, before I quit my day job, to think that I ever would have spent $25,000 to be a part of a mastermind for a year. This is a national group. Nate, I know you're a part of it. 7-figure flipping. It was the first mastermind that we joined. And that was like more than what I'd paid for anything ever, including like my entire education. So it was kind of scary to put the money into that just to be a part of a network, to be a part of a group of people. But the learning and growth that came from joining up with that group of investors and the things that I changed my business as a result were life-changing. The exponential growth. I mean, the $25,000 was nothing compared to what I got in return. So again, networking, being a part of every group that you could be a part of, learning from peers in your market, out of your market, invaluable.
Love it.
All right. 4. What do you got?
Do what you say you are going to do. Reputation is everything in this business.
Amen.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. They're actually going to stand, so we're not going to drop them. That's my number 2, integrity. There are would-be investors who are not in this room because they did not keep commitments, and you can ruin your entire reputation in a market by a few bad moves, and it's usually around integrity, not doing what you say you were going to do.
Yeah, and it takes so long to build up a solid reputation, and one bad decision to ruin it. So you got to be diligent about it, watch it like it's your lifeblood, because you have to remember, if you say you're going to do something, do it, and if something happens, and it goes sideways, take accountability for it.
Yep. Good one. My number 4 is be a serial learner, and I'm guilty at times about getting a little bit lazy about my learning, because when you spend a lot of years doing something, it can kind of become tiresome. It gets old, but I still listen to podcasts, still read books, I still go to mastermind groups and learn from other investors. So I think that that's been a very critical part of my journey, is constantly learning. And every year my business is different because of what I'm learning. So in this business, if you expect to come into it and just push a play button and hope that it repeats every year and that you get the same amount of deals, that's not how it works. You're constantly adjusting what you're doing to really meet your goals.
Any new favorite podcasts you're listening to?
I feel guilty, I feel bad saying this, but Bigger Pockets I really have not gotten into until this year. My initial podcast I was listening to years ago, Justin Colby, The Science of Flipping. Justin Williams was another one that I was listening to. It was just a couple of random podcasts, but Bigger Pockets has been pretty neat. We actually had David Green, one of the co-hosts, out to an event a few months back, and then that's when I had to learn about Bigger Pockets. Really good one.
In case he quizzed you.
Yeah.
That one episode.
I listen all the time.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Sure. Number 49 or
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's mine. All right. Number 3.
Well, this kind of goes along with, I don't remember which number it was, maybe 7, but mine was know your numbers. They're the foundation of your business. Yeah, that one. So that was my number 3. What do you have for yours?
Number 8.
Number 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to number 2.
Oh, sorry. Mine was KPI tracking was number 8. Now we're confused with all the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Know your numbers is your number 3. My number 3 was you have to be a massive action taker. And I think there's a trap in education, and it can get you kind of become a professional learner, and that is a step. That is action taking, learning, and going to look at a deal. But until you do something that actually has a result tied to it, like making an offer, somebody's going to have to respond now, nothing's ever going to happen. So just hoping that you can show up to events or mastermind or meet people without taking massive action that may be a little bit scary, nothing's ever going to happen. So.
I love that. One of my favorite sayings is bacon and eggs. The chicken's involved, but the pig is committed.
Yes.
So you have people that like to go to these events, and there's nothing wrong with that. They like being around people that are real estate investors because we always have hilarious stories and make fun of each other.
Yeah.
And it's fun, right? And then they go back to their life, and then they maybe listen to some podcasts, but they are scared because they haven't taken some of the steps that are radical in going out and actually making offers on places, going through 100 houses over time to make sure you're comfortable knowing what the value of it is, right? So yeah, I think that's great.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, make a plan for the type of business you want and then execute on the plan. Don't chase shiny objects. So when you first start out, it's flipping looks good. I think maybe I'll do that. Oh, wait, what's this BRRRR thing? And then, I heard about lease options. Those are kind of cool. Multifamily. It's
ooh, I'm going to do hard money.
Yes. Oh, hard money. Yeah. Hard money. Yeah, but I think that is a pitfall for a lot of newer investors and some experienced ones. You get some that are kind of going after the new hot thing, storage units or whatever it is. I think when you get to a certain point, when you have, what do they say, you're an expert after 10,000 hours invested learning something. I think when you get to a point where you're really, really strong and maybe an expert in a certain facet of real estate, then you can layer on others. And maybe it's a vertically integrated business hard money lending, or maybe it's title company, or maybe it's brokerage, or a lot of like you and Jeff have done with all those businesses. So I think when you get to that point, then that's when you can start making strategic decisions on layering on businesses. But to do that in the beginning, I think you're just going to spin your wheels and probably end up failing and just being like, real estate doesn't work.
Yep, you definitely in this business have to begin with an end in mind. So if you just dive right in and say, I'm going to wholesale, it's like, well, okay, what does your business look like? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? How much money do you want to make? Do you want to start earning passive income? And I think one of the reasons that Jeff and I have partnered up so well over the years is because we started out saying we want to own rentals. It was that simple of a platform. We wanted to buy 100 rental properties. And since the goal is 10x, so now it's 1,000. And we still have 900 and a little bit to go. So there's a journey ahead of us. But at the end of the day, our goal was we are going to acquire rentals. And everything that we do, every question that we have, or when we need to align on something, the question comes back to, well, does this help us buy more rentals? And so it's very easy to be aligned when you start with, begin with that end in mind.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned too, it's like, it doesn't have to be super elaborate, your plan either. You just need to have a plan and a direction, and then break it down into bite-sized pieces. It's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You break it into little steps that you can take action on, get some wins under your belt and some reps, and then you're going to start being more and more comfortable doing the other things that are going to be revenue generating activities, like making offers and closing deals and meeting with motivated sellers, all that.
Awesome. Okay, are we down to our, wait, do I need my, did you do your number 2? Did you do your 2?
Yep, that was the make a plan.
All right, mind's integrity, we chatted on that. It's so important amongst your peers, amongst sellers. If you advertise that you're going to do something, you should do the thing. And it's sad that we even have to talk about it, but it goes a really long ways when you can simply act with integrity. Okay, number 1, we've arrived. How are we on time? Ted, are we okay? Okay, we're already to the number 1 thing that a real estate investor must have. So this is a big moment. Owen, go ahead.
Abundance mentality.
Ooh.
So sharing knowledge and helping others without any expectation whatsoever about getting a return.
That's awesome. So is that kind of your way of getting back at me for saying I wish you would disappear because you're a competitor?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually just added this.
Okay. Important. Do you want to expound on that anymore?
So I think we all know people that are maybe negative, or they've had some life scenarios that have been thrown at them where they have a tendency to try to kind of hide their secrets or their knowledge, and it is painful to watch for me. I think I just have such a different mindset about it, and I really want to just be like, you don't have to do that. You can just share, and people will appreciate it, and it's better for everyone when you do it. So that's why I don't really care at all if I get anything whatsoever out of going to these, but I like helping people too. So especially people that are newer in the business. I've met with so many newer, people that are just trying to break in, and they're like, you get people that are kind of timid about asking for your time, and I get it, right? Yeah. But when you can make time for that, and you have to, again, time block that, be like, hey, I want to make it a goal of meeting with, this month I want to meet with 6 new people that I've never had a conversation with before. And you reach out to them, you set up a coffee or lunch or whatever, or just a few minutes, and then you just have a conversation. Find out about them, find out about their goals. Those things I think are important, but sharing your knowledge is how you get the needle moving forward with groups like this. I mean, look at this group. How many people are here, Ted? 100 and how many?
A little over 110.
110? That's awesome. I mean, don't you guys have other things to do? It's Tuesday night.
Wow, I think that is huge. It's amazing that the more you give away, and you don't give it away to get back, but what comes back to you as you give it all away is amazing. And I think the worry is in this business of especially sharing at the RIA, it's these people are in my market, I'm going to tell them what I'm doing for marketing. It's I don't want them to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how it works. It's you know what, if you all want to go out and do a TV commercial like I do, go for it. Have fun.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing, everybody can win. And I think once you put yourself in that mindset about sharing and teaching others and helping others grow, it's there is so many deals out there and so many ways for us to all go win together. like how you sell me houses and like you made money, I made money, like it's this whole symbiotic thing, like everybody can win.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of eye-opening once you realize like, oh, I don't have to keep everything a secret, like, oh, everybody else is already doing this thing anyway, so it's like you can just share everything.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's like, you know, can you imagine if we were like, oh, I don't want to share anything? I mean, like, I'm on your podcast, this is cool, you know,
Yeah.
we're competitors and you bought how, like, it's
Frenemies.
so much better. Frenemies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much better that way.
I agree. All right, my number one, and I fought with my wife a little bit on this one because I use the word tenacious or tenacity, and she is synonymous. She used grit, but grit, tenacity. I think in this business, you deal with a lot of rejection. You have to be ready to deal with the rejection and to move beyond it and to like be just absolutely tenacious with your goals. And one bad deal or one bad rejection can kind of ruin a day, but if you let it ruin a week or a month or a year, then you won't survive. So you have to figure out what you're passionate about and just run through the wall and just take it and run, because if you don't have that, then I mean, in any line of business, you're not going to last.
Totally agree. I think this is a business where people get really passionate really fast, and if they don't try to put some structure around that, they flame out. Mm-hmm. And but I think, yeah, you have to have that stick-to-itiveness and the ability to withstand rejection and be like, well, this doesn't work. Well, not yet, it doesn't. You haven't put enough time or reps in. So I think that's 100% true. Like you can't rely on such a small sample size. You have to look at the end product over a period of time, and then you can judge your success. So if you're going to get into this business, you got to give it at least a year, maybe 2 years, and be like, okay, I did the right things. And then if you work on your processes and your stick-to-itiveness, like things are going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, that's the classic cartoon, 3 feet from gold, the gold miner.
Oh, yeah.
Digging and quitting, and there's like a giant gold nugget just behind like one more hit with his pickaxe. Well, Owen, can I just tell you how much of a pleasure it's been having you here today? This has just been so amazing. Owen, you haven't really even plugged your hard money business. If you could talk about how people can reach you, how everybody just basically heard you say that you're willing to do coffee with them, so you've got about 110 coffee dates coming up really quick. Talk a little bit about how, just do it here, just speed dating.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how people can get a hold of you, what you do, what your business is, especially liquid lending. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I'm pretty active in the both the Omaha RIA Facebook group and the Omaha Real Estate Meetup. I don't know if anybody in here is not a part of that group as well, but we're a pretty active group too that also gets together once a month. So Colin Schwartz, who is somewhere, he's kind of short. There he is. He's back there. He runs the group, does an awesome job. We have guest speakers. Jose, who was just up here earlier, is part of that too. I'm always there. I'm always commenting, and I'm a moderator on that page. So if anybody wants to reach out to me that I'm not, friends with on there, that's a great way to do it. So liquid lending, we started this. I started this with Colin and Chris Pomerleau, Peter Anarating, and Brandon Tauber, and we basically started this as a result of a lot of investors talking to us and us having been through it ourselves, where you run into challenges with getting traditional bank financing and getting deals closed quickly enough, especially in the pandemic when appraisals are taking 6 weeks and things like that. So we decided to offer a liquid way to fund deals and have it just be like cut out all the red tape, right? So we've done deals literally, and I think there's 1 or 2 people in here that we've done the next day. So we've gotten a lead that came in and we got it funded the next day. Those are stressful. I don't want to advertise that we do that all the time, but guys, evil one. But so that's been a lot of fun. We started that last September, and I think we've done almost 60 loans since then. And so we've done some transactional financing on some apartment deals, and we've done, I think probably 55 or so hard money loans. So that's been a lot of fun. I've gotten to know a lot more investors in here, so it's a really good fit for people that are doing like quick turns if they're going to buy and rehab it and get out, and if they're going to wholesale it, that's a great fit for that because you're only paying a couple months interest. And then also we've done more traditional like flips that take longer, but also burrs. I mean, that's a great way to get liquid and buy it, take it down, then get traditional financing on it later.
So you're telling me if I have really bad credit little bit of investing knowledge that you guys will help a newbie investor buy a house?
Perhaps. I would say, well, here's basically how we approach it. We underwrite the asset first,
Okay.
and if the purchase, we basically look at it like we're the ones that are going to buy it for the price that they want to finance.
Okay.
And if we wouldn't buy it, we won't do the deal. And we'll tell them that, and they probably shouldn't do it either.
Oh,
right?
so there's some free education in it too.
Yes. So then I've had several of these calls, but yes, we will work with newer investors, and there's a little more hand-holding, and I'm fine doing that to an extent. But we want to understand also, like, okay, do you know anything about construction? Do you know who a contractor is? Like, those are kind of basic things you need to have. So I wouldn't say we do a lot of business with brand new investors,
Okay.
but we will consider it.
Okay, wonderful. So there you go. I think it's pretty neat. I think a lot of investors, their initial biggest obstacle is, well, I can't be a flipper because I can't get bank financing, or I don't have the income to do that, or I don't have a down payment. But I think hard money removes that excuse. It's like, all right, well, if you find a great deal that you think is a great deal, at least, then you'll most likely fund it.
One thing I just want to touch on real quick. I had this conversation with a couple of people recently about, I think you have people that will, they'll be fine partnering with somebody 50-50 on a deal, right? Like somebody has money and then somebody they find the deal and they put up the work. Mm-hmm. And they're fine splitting that 50% with the money partner that didn't do anything other than funding it. Mm-hmm. And if you look at that versus because I get it, like nobody likes to pay high interest rates, but if you're only doing it for a short amount of time and you can get in and out of it, it's usually much better than partnering with somebody.
Yeah.
When you look at the numbers, because you're paying 2-3 months of interest, whereas you're splitting the entire profit with somebody else. So just another way to kind of end up at the same or a different result, by applying a method of taking it down.
Owen, amazing. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you want to share?
No, hey, this was a lot of fun.
Okay.
I'm excited you had me on. This was great. I'm glad I was so stressed about this all day today. So, no.
Can we get a big round of applause for Owen Dashner?